So this couple approached this trip with their eyes open to all the relational dynamics and the struggles, and they were very intentional. They didn't try to just wing it and hope for the best. They had challenging conversations as a couple. They had some awkward conversations with their kids.
Yeah, and this wasn't easy.
Yeah.
And there were still some tense moments on the trip. But in the end, his girls engaged with the short, sweet family activities, and they were open to bonding with their stepmom and her kids in new ways.
Yeah. Welcome to the Blended Family Coaching Show, where you'll discover how to move your stepfamily from just surviving to truly thriving.
Grab your headphones and listen in as we share practical, real-life strategies for building healthy bonds,
Understanding the kids' perspective,
romance and partnership,
parenting with great teamwork.
and yes, even co-parenting with a difficult ex.
We're Mike and Kim Anderson, and we believe with the right tools, every step couple can overcome the common challenges of stepfamily life.
Join us for authentic and sometimes comical conversations to discover how you can lead your family with confidence and create the future you really want.
Well, hey, everybody, thank you so much for being here with us today and talking about how we can create some positive family time and reduce relational tension.
Yes.
That is something we all need in our blended families. And hey, you know, if you haven't had an opportunity to follow us over on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts, I encourage you to do that right now. Maybe hit one of those star ratings and even leave us a review and tell us how we're doing for you. And you know what? I bet as you're listening to a lot of these episodes, you're thinking, man, I've got some questions that I'd love to ask Mike and Kim. Well, we would love to answer your questions. And so I want to encourage you to go over to mikeandkimcoaching.com/share. And if you go over there, we'll put a link in the show notes for you to do that.
Yeah.
You can ask us questions. You can make suggestions for podcast episode topics. We would love to hear from you because we want to help you right where you're at. So if you've been listening to a bunch of our our episodes and you're thinking, man, I wish I had an answer to this question, that's a great place to go and ask that question, and we'd be happy to try and answer it.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Well, hey, how about we get on with this episode?
Okay, sounds good, honey.
All right.
So I'm really excited because summer is just around the corner.
Oh, boy.
Yay.
You're in your summer.
In fact, the first day of summer here in the Northern Hemisphere is June 21st.
Ooh, that's coming up quick.
Yeah, and I love summer.
You do.
Now, where I grew up, we enjoyed summer weather pretty much all year long. In fact, I never owned a heavy coat, and we were able to comfortably spend a lot of time outside. And that's not so much the case where we live now.
Yeah, that's for sure.
No, in the Pacific Northwest,
doesn't
no.
afford you that.
Lots
no.
of rain, yeah.
Sounds idyllic wherever you grew up.
Yeah, it was. But, you know, I'm sure that's something many of us appreciate about the summer season, right? We can spend lots of time outdoors, playing, exploring, vacationing. And we'd like to be able to do all of that as a family and create positive bonding experience and memorable moments together, right?
That doesn't just happen that way.
Wouldn't that be nice?
It would be. You know, we've been living our blended family journey for 21 years at this point. And you know what? Whether you're just starting your blend or you've been in it longer than we have, we probably all have something in common. We want to invest in and experience familyness, right? I know that's kind of a made-up word, but I love that word, familyness. You know, it's that sense of togetherness, like we're really a family unit. Even though kids are moving back and forth and we've got plenty of challenging dynamics, we're still experiencing that sense of unity.
Familyness.
Yeah, so it seems to make sense that the best way to move forward as a family and build tight bonds is to find ways to spend lots and lots of time together, right? If we want familyness, then we've got to bring on the family time, right?
Well, not so fast there, honey. It all sounds good and reasonable, but this is one of those kind of tricky and sticky areas of blended family life where we can make some easy wrong turns.
That's right.
Because even though this idea of family time sounds right and really good, there could be some underlying issues going on in your family, and that can make family time really challenging. And maybe you've already noticed some of this in your blended family, even around simple things like meals, right?
Oh, goodness. Yeah, we hear that from a ton of blended family couples. The whole family sits down to dinner. They've got a lovely meal prepared, and they're looking forward to connecting at that dinner table with everybody, right? The whole family. But then it all seems to go sideways from there. Maybe there's some awkward silence or just an uncomfortable vibe going on. Or maybe you're a bio parent and you notice that your kids are acting out of character. They might seem uneasy or they've gone quiet. Maybe you've been left kind of scratching your head because your kids are usually pretty chatty and comfortable during meals, right?
Yeah. You're not sure what's going on.
Yeah.
Maybe you've noticed an unsettling posture from one or more of the kids or negative attitudes that suddenly crop up.
Happens.
Yeah, there's some angst going on.
Yeah.
The kids might seem to forget their good manners, or they might protest when they're asked to help out with the food prep or cleanup afterwards, right?
Sometimes it's not just the kids that tend to get a bit tense, though, right? Maybe it's one or both of you.
Right.
I know you and I have lived that, honey. Maybe you react with irritation to the kids or disappointment that dinner isn't going as you had hoped.
Right.
Maybe you've lost hope. You feel a bit defeated because it feels like every time you get together as a family, something goes wrong. Someone's unhappy, unsettled, sulky, sassy, agitated, argumentative, guarded, grumbly, distant, maybe disrespectful.
Right.
Like I could probably come up with a few more adjectives too.
Yeah. And of course, dinner time is just one simple example. There have probably been many opportunities in your blended family journey when your hopes for positive family time have been dashed.
Absolutely.
Right? And we've got two pieces of really good news for you.
For sure. First, what we've just described is common, especially in those early years of blending.
Right.
And second, there are reasons why family time might be challenging, and there's things that you can do to intentionally create more positive experiences and minimize the tension when everyone's together. So it's good news because it's common. That means we're not alone.
Right.
And it's great news that there's things we can actually do to make it better.
So don't lose hope.
Absolutely.
Now, the reality for most blended families is that tensions are highest when everyone is together. That's just a reality we've got to accept. And we need to be strategic in how we go about spending time together as a family.
Yep.
And so today we're going to explore some of these strategies so that you can make the most of your summer while intentionally creating family time that's more positive and less stressful.
So we're going to avoid making that summer that you love into a summer that you loathe. You don't want that, right? Is that what we're after? Okay. Okay, so before we jump into all that, let's touch on one of the reasons why family time might be challenging. We recently heard this term, intimate strangers. Like that's what we are when we first blend a family. And that's where we start out, right?
Especially in those step relationships.
Absolutely. It feels intimate because everyone's under the same roof. You're doing life together. You're kind of on top of each other. But you're actually strangers because you have very little context or history with each other. There's no such thing as this instant family. I remember that movie that came out not too long ago with Mark Wahlberg. It was kind of funny. It's like, that just doesn't exist. Everyone in a blended family is trying to figure out how to actually live life together. They're trying to identify their new role in the family. They might be wondering where loyalties lie and who you're becoming as a family.
Right.
All of that takes time because you're metaphorically cooking your stepfamily. And if you haven't already heard about the best way to cook your stepfamily, then we want to encourage you to go back and listen to episode 72 called The Best Way to Create Healthy Bonded Relationships so that you can learn that low and slow approach to bonding. Okay, so you definitely, that's just like a
Bonding 101.
Yeah, you want to go back and check out that episode, and we'll link to that in the show notes. Now, it's so important that you do a few things that will intentionally reduce the pressure and accept a realistic time frame for relational connections to develop. And research reveals that it takes a blended family an average of 7 years to fully integrate and actually blend.
Mm-hmm.
So the strategies that we're going to be talking about today will help you to make the most of your time, and they work year-round, not just in the summer months, right? Okay. Now, we've actually talked about these strategies on the show before, but it's been about a year, and we wanted to talk about them again because, as writer and poet Samuel Johnson once said, people need to be reminded more than they need to be instructed. Man, I know that's been so true in my life. We all need to be reminded of the truth and what's possible kind of on a regular basis, especially when we're feeling a bit impatient or discouraged or when things don't seem to be clicking for us.
Right.
Rediscovering some of these strategies might be really helpful for you wherever you are in the blending journey.
Right.
Even if you're already 7 years or more into your blend.
Yeah. And just a heads up, some of these strategies are going to feel counterintuitive.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's so easy to make those easy wrong turns when it comes to bonding in a blended family.
Yeah.
But like one husband stated during a coaching session with us, he said, "This stuff just isn't common sense, is it?"
It's not.
He's absolutely right. But just because some of these strategies might not feel like common sense, they're proven strategies, and they will increase your family's ability to relax when everyone is together and to build genuine bonds. That's not to say they're a magic bullet that will just change everything overnight.
Right.
No, this is a process. These strategies are powerful, and you can hold on to them and use them this summer and beyond, beyond, right?
Absolutely. All right. So let's talk strategy. Now, regardless of how long you've been blending, you've got to continue to intentionally invest in one-on-one time.
Oh, so important.
Now, I know. You've heard this from us before. And sometimes it might feel like it's a bit of a step backward, actually. You're trading some of your family time for one-on-one time. And that just kind of feels weird. Everyone in your family needs focused one-on-one time in order to strengthen relational connections and create a sense of stability and security in each relationship. One-on-one time communicates important messages to every person. Imagine if you and your spouse never, and I say that as a strong never, had one-on-one time. You only spent time together with the kids, extended family, or friends. How would you stabilize your relationship? Well, it's a little different with your kids, but the principle is still the same. And by filling this need for one-on-one time in the various relationships in your family, you can anticipate that your blend will likely go a little bit smoother and family time tensions might begin to decrease.
Right.
Maybe not completely disappear, but things can gradually feel more relaxed and everyone might begin to be more open to spending time together.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And honey, you mentioned those important messages we want to be sending and reinforcing.
Yeah.
And one of those messages that a bio parent needs to send is this: I value our relationship.
Yeah.
Now, you might verbally tell your bio kids this over and over, but actions really do speak louder than words.
Yeah.
Kids need to see it.
Yeah, they need to feel it.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you intentionally spend time exclusively with your bio kids, you're sending that message loud and clear. I value our relationship.
Yep.
And because many kids will view a new step parent or step siblings as a threat to their relationship with you, this individualized attention, this one-on-one time and care will go a long way in lowering their perceived threat and reducing any anxiety that they might be experiencing of what this blend all means.
Yeah, that's right.
And really, all it takes is a couple of hours on a regular basis, connecting in a way that's meaningful for you and your kids. And this strategy is critical in providing the kids with some much needed stability and security from their bio parent. And it could even relieve the kids' urge to try and compete for your attention when family time does take place.
Yeah,
right?
for sure. And one pro tip around this is to do your best logistically to spend a little of that focused one-on-one time with your bio kids right at or near the start of your visitation time. You might even consider it on the way home when you're taking your kids home at the transition, if you happen to be picking them up. A quick stop for a treat or go for a walk in the park or whatever it is that gives you just a little bit of space to connect with them and really send that important message. I value our relationship.
Yeah. You know, we've coached couples and shared that pro tip leading into their visitation, and it often makes a positive difference in how the kids are able to show up and manage their own emotions when they end up having some family time later. So we encourage you to give it a try and see if you notice your kids becoming just a bit more relaxed. It might be that they just need to experience a fortifying dose of assurance in their parental connection on a regular basis.
That's right. And, you know, for step relationships, it might be a similar concept, but maybe it's just a 10-minute one-on-one activity. Keep it really simple and don't push your way in.
Right.
The important message that a step parent needs to send is this: I'm here when you're ready. Like, I remember needing to do that with Annika quite a bit. Like she was struggling early on because I was like threat level midnight, right?
Yeah. What does all this mean?
For all you Office fans out there, if you don't get it, then you probably don't watch Office. But you spending one-on-one time with her and me easing my way in with little opportunities for one-on-one time, I think that really made a difference in her ability to just relax when we were all together.
I agree.
So make yourself available for simple connection time without overstepping.
Right.
Let them know that you're interested in what they're doing. And here's another little hack: ask permission to engage with them.
Right.
Hey, is it okay if I check that game out that you're playing? Or, hey, tell me a little bit about what you're doing there. Asking permission and just easing your way in is so key.
Yeah, that's helpful with kids of all ages.
That's true.
Little ones with Legos and older kids
with each other too, actually.
Absolutely.
And then be patient. You might need to tolerate some rejection once in a while. And you can wait and just continue to build trust before your stepkids are open to spending some of that one-on-one time with you. And hey, bio parents, if you notice your spouse is getting rejected a few times, you can come in and reassure them and kind of be their cheerleader along the way. But you might have to endure that. You know, many kids struggle to accept a step parent. We talked about that reality and what you can do to create strong bonds with a resistant stepkid back in episode 39. And so we'll put a link in the show notes so that you can go back and discover 5 reasons why kids struggle and some ways to approach those challenging dynamics in your home.
That's right.
Yep.
And also that episode includes some tips on how to avoid some easy wrong turns that can actually sabotage your relationship with your stepkids. Yeah. Now, I was also thinking about episodes 103 and 104, where we challenge 4 myths about one-on-one time, and we reveal the counteractive truths to those myths. So if you're feeling a bit wary about this strategy and you'd like to gain a deeper understanding, and step parents, if you sometimes feel left out when your spouse spends focus time with their bio kids, we talk about all of that and how you might handle and manage your emotions and that internal struggle.
Absolutely.
And kind of debunk those myths. So go check those out if you want to learn more about why the one-on-one strategy is so important.
For sure. Hey, if this is your first time joining us, the first episode you've ever listened to, I bet you didn't realize you were going to get a whole library of episodes in the show notes. We'll have a whole bunch of links.
Yeah, we like to keep you learning.
That's right. All right. So embrace the one-on-one strategy, and you might be surprised at how that can actually accelerate your family's ability to show up well for each other when you do have family time together. And don't forget that the one-on-one strategy is true for your marriage too. You need to invest in your relationship with regular date nights and daily connection time because you're going to want to have your romantic connection tanks full to the top so that you can navigate all these ups and downs of family life as a united team.
Absolutely.
Yeah. When you're united as a couple, things just seem to go better.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about another strategy.
Okay. So the first part of this strategy is to evaluate the relational climate in your home. So this is really about thinking about past experiences and things that you've noticed in each of your family members as they interact. Then spend some time as a couple evaluating everyone's comfort level as well as their tolerance around spending time together as a family.
Right.
Now, if things seem to get really tense when everyone's together, even around the dinner table or other family time interactions, you might decide that the relational climate in your home is somewhat tentative right now.
Yeah.
Maybe it feels like people are walking around on eggshells, or there might even be a bit of hostility or cold shoulder treatment happening.
Yeah, it's a little chilly in that
Yeah,
home. Yep,
yeah.
very tentative. Or maybe you've noticed some positive interactions with some members of your family, but others still seem a bit reserved toward each other. They might have the capacity to hang out together, but there's still a certain amount of uncertainty or guardedness. So we would call that a moderate relational climate. Yeah.
Or maybe your family's turned a corner and the relational climate is pleasant. Everyone seems to be getting along and family time is enjoyable for everyone.
Yeah.
And you know, if that's where you're at in your blended family journey, it's time to celebrate a win.
That's right.
And enjoy the fruits of your labor. But if your family's not there yet, that's okay. Don't panic. All it really takes is some time, patience, and a few solid strategies and insights, and you'll get there too.
That's right. Okay, so the first part of this strategy is to honestly evaluate where you're at in the journey as a family. Is the relational climate in your home tentative, moderate, or pleasant?
Right.
Just kind of identify that as a whole, really,
Right.
is what we're talking about. You might have one child that's an outlier or something like that. But in general, are we tentative, moderate, or pleasant?
Right.
Yeah.
And then once you've determined your relational climate, you can use that lens as you consider what family time might look like at this stage of your journey.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the second part of this strategy.
So based on where your family's relational climate is, you're going to want to now carefully choose activities that have an intensity level to match the climate.
Right.
That's the basic strategy there. Identify the climate and then choose an intensity level that matches. And this is something that we encourage you to intentionally think through as you're sitting down to make plans for your summer. Like lots of different things change in the summer, and we're planning all kinds of different things that include lots of different family members. And so we encourage you to post haste, think through this together. But it's not just about summer. It can be for any season.
Yeah.
And we want you to really think through how you might leverage each family time activity so that you can all come away with a positive experience.
Right. That's the goal.
But to get you there, you've got to work together to strategically plan what intensity of activities are best for your family at this particular season in your blending journey based on your relational climate.
Exactly. And we realize this might sound like it's going to take some work up front, and it will.
Yeah.
But keep in mind that it's worthy work.
Absolutely.
Because with each positive, enjoyable, memorable activity at the appropriate level of intensity will come deeper levels of connection and bonding.
That's right.
And this is a step-by-step process.
Yeah.
And this is not about great leaps at a time,
Yeah,
okay?
no giant leaps. That's right. Honey, that reminds me of a story about a couple we met years and years ago, right out of the gate, like within the first few months of forming their blended family, of his 3 teens and her 2 teens. They were all 5 teenagers, all in one.
Right.
They thought they'd spend some quality family time together. So they packed everyone up in their Suburban, and they set out on a family road trip. And, you know, they were excited, and they had a vision of great moments, full of laughter, family bonding. But when the husband describes the reality of what they actually experienced, I remember him just hanging his head and saying, it was just the worst. and I mean, their trip ended up being a bit of a disaster. And it wasn't all that they expected it to be, and they really experienced a lot of disappointment in that.
Yeah, that's a great example of this easy wrong turn that often happens as a result of our common sense
Yeah.
that isn't always all that helpful in these dynamics,
Right,
unfortunately. Now, intuitively, this couple believed that putting everyone together in close quarters and traveling for an extended period of time together would be a wonderful bonding experience.
Yeah, seems like common sense,
Yeah,
right?
but the reality is that most often tension is highest when everyone is together. We need to remember that.
Yeah, that's right, especially in the early seasons of blending.
Right.
And that couple learned this the hard way.
Yeah, they did.
They ended up selling that Suburban actually very shortly after that trip, and they started adjusting their expectations. They thought that the regular road trips were going to be a part of their family's new and exciting traditions, but instead they discovered that what they really needed was to focus on some intentional one-on-one time, being aware of their relational climates and their blended family, and then they started choosing family activities that were at a better intensity level for each season of their blending.
Yes, and along with patience, you might also need to reevaluate your expectations around bonding and land on more realistic goals for your family.
That's right.
That couple's disastrous trip was over 20 years ago, and now in their empty nest stage of life, they're happily married and have built some solid relationships with their kids and stepkids.
Yeah.
And they even see evidence of connection between the 5 kids, which is so great.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the intensity levels we're referring to here.
That's right. Okay, so level 1 is low intensity, and there's some criteria for these different levels, okay? So here's the criteria for level 1 activities. Number 1, they aren't lengthy. They're short and simple, maybe even less than an hour.
Right.
They're really short and sweet, okay? Number 2, they have an external component that's going to hold everyone's attention. So in other words, you don't need to focus too much on each other or feel pressure to interact. That can be kind of really awkward and it creates some tension, right? And that's especially true early on in the cooking journey. I'm not going to I'm not going to say what the appliances that you used best to cook a I almost said it, to cook a step family, because you're going to go back to that other episode we talked about earlier.
Those of you that know the strategy know exactly what we're talking about.
That's right. Anyway, I'm rambling. Let's go to number 3. So number 1, they're short and simple. Number 2, they have an external component that we're focused on. And number 3, there's a quick escape route if things get tough, right? If it just doesn't go well, you want to get out of there. And you don't want to be in a position of forcing your kids into prolonged time together if they're really having a hard time and they just simply aren't ready yet. So that means you want to keep it close to home, right?
Right.
Okay, so here's how this all relates. If you've identified that the relational climate in your home is tentative right now, you're having a tough time, then you probably need to consider staying focused on level 1 activities until you notice that things are improving. Right. And we'll share a few examples of these low intensity activities in just a minute. What if you could experience a community that's all about healthy support, guidance, and practical strategies that help you thrive in your blended family? Well, now you can. Blending Together is a supportive community for blended family couples just like you.
We've educated and supported hundreds of couples navigating the unique challenges of blending a family. Now we're inviting you to join our community and experience the transformation that awaits you. But you'll need to act fast because we're getting started soon. Blending Together is not just another community. It's a place where you'll find practical, real-life strategies for building unity as a couple.
And creating more connection as a family.
Experiencing partnership in parenting.
And even dealing with that difficult ex.
Blending Together is a safe, growth-focused space where you get to connect with us and, maybe more importantly, with other blended family couples who truly understand what you're going through. Along the way, you'll discover practical tools, guidance, and hope that empower you to find a future full of confidence and connection.
When you join Blending Together, you'll get to hop into a variety of resources like access to our private Facebook group and online learning platform, monthly coaching meetings, monthly Q&As, and you'll even get to vote on the content for our monthly workshops.
Blending a family can often leave couples feeling alone or isolated and stuck, and quality support can sometimes be expensive. That's why we're offering you access to all of this at a super low monthly rate, because every blended family deserves the opportunity to thrive, regardless of their budget.
That's right. So join us in the Blending Together community and unlock the secrets to successful blending. Together, we can create a future filled with hope, connection, and peace. But don't wait. Click the link in the show notes now. The doors will be closing on October 8th, and you don't want to miss out on this unique opportunity to create the future you really want alongside other couples who genuinely get it. Mm-hmm. Hey, we can't wait to meet you there.
Right. But first, let's talk about the criteria for level 2 activities.
Ooh, taking it up a notch.
Yeah. Now, level 2 activities typically take more time than a level 1 activity.
Okay.
Maybe a few hours or half a day. They might have more of a focus on interaction with family members rather than primarily focused on something that's external.
So kind of a blend.
Right, a blend.
Okay. Yep.
And they're still close to home. And this is important because if things, for whatever reason, don't go well and you may need to retreat, you won't have to travel too far.
Okay.
Right. So the escape route here might be a bit longer than in level 1 activities, but it's not a road trip to get back home, right?
Everybody back in the suburban.
Right. Now, if you've determined that the relational climate in your family is a bit moderate, or maybe if you've tried some level 1 activities already and things have gone well, then you might consider trying a few of these level 2 intensity activities. And again, we're going to share some examples of those in just a minute here.
That's right. And finally, you can probably see where we're headed with this. We've got level 3 activities. Now, they involve some extended time together.
Right.
More than just a few hours, possibly even a full day or maybe a multi-day adventure. They're probably going to have a mix of focus. Some of the time you'll be focused on interacting in the relationships, and some of the time there will be a few external components as well. And you'll want to be mindful around what you choose to try based on how everybody's doing and how past activities have gone. So really pick and choose carefully and put some thought into this. It might not be wise to just throw everyone in the car and wing it along the way, right? You're going to want to agree as a couple ahead of time what a backup plan looks like if things do happen to get bumpy. But if you've noticed that the relational climate in your home is pleasant, things are going well, people are connecting, then you might be ready to try a level 3 activity this summer and just see how it goes.
Okay, so those are the 3 different levels of intensity to consider based on the relational climate in your home. Level 1, if things feel tentative.
Yep.
Level 2, if things are moderate. And level 3, if things with your family are mostly pleasant.
Right.
And we encourage you to talk about all of this as a couple before you get too much further in your summer planning, because this can really make a difference in what you and your family will actually experience. Whatever you choose will likely either positively or negatively impact your family's relational bonding throughout the summer.
Yeah.
But let's talk about what this might look like practically. And we'll focus on some summer ideas here, but this concept, this whole strategy applies to every season year-round. We're also going to share some pro tips so that you can troubleshoot if things don't go as planned. We need to be ready and expect that.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk examples. You know, we have some personal favorites in our family. We live in a little small town, and there's multiple garage sales almost every weekend through the spring and summer because it's the only time of year that it makes sense weather-wise, right?
Right.
And many times we've enjoyed going out kind of hunting for treasures at those garage sales.
Right. Even our son likes to do that.
I know. Yeah. I mean, this can be fun for kids of all ages, and it's pretty inexpensive. When our kids were younger, we would give them like each a little budget of cash and let them know that once they run out, that was it. So choose your purchase wisely. As you know, they go and they get a little bit older, then they start bringing their own money, right? And we loved following the signs. It was kind of adventurous sometimes, just finding the garage sale.
Right.
And then it was always interesting to browse through the stuff and have fun showing each other what we found.
That's the external component.
Exactly. I think sometimes we have more laughs and fun laughing at stuff we didn't buy than any kind of treasure we actually found to buy, right?
Yeah.
You can also do this at like thrift shops if the weather's not so great. Our kids have loved that kind of activity when they were little. They'd find funny toys, books, games, and even as teenagers, they enjoy it.
They do.
Our son's 17 now, and it wasn't too long ago he found this really hideous, ugly Christmas sweater at a garage sale. And he actually wore it to a get-together like the next week with his friends right in the middle of summer.
Yeah, he loves it.
It was pretty funny, yeah. Now, the great thing about this is it doesn't have to be really lengthy. You can hit just one garage sale and head back home if that's all the family can handle. Or if everyone's enjoying themselves, you can consider extending it to include maybe like a fast food run for lunch or some sort of fun treat as well, right?
Yeah. Now, if garage sales and thrift shops just aren't your style, you could take everyone shopping at a local shopping center or a farmer's market, a craft fair, or the mall, right? The external component in this kind of level 1 activity is the stuff everyone is discovering and focusing on, right? Family members can choose to interact with each other as they want, or not so much, if that's more comfortable. There's not a lot of pressure here, right?
Right.
And there's also a quick escape back home if things get stressful.
That's right.
Be sure to stay close to home when you're trying low-intensity level 1 activities. That's really important.
For sure.
Now, some other favorite level 1 activities that can be done outdoors as a family, on your own property even, are things like planting a garden or flower pots. Our kids used to love to get the slip and slide or the kiddie pool out when they were younger and play in the sprinklers. As they got older, we had water balloons and water gun fights.
Yep.
But you might decide to throw and shoot at specific targets, right? Rather than at each other.
That's wise, especially between step siblings.
Yeah. Or you can play all kinds of outdoor games. You know, for years, our family loved to play Foursquare in the driveway with the neighbors.
Yeah, for sure.
Our kids also enjoyed badminton and ping pong, basketball, playing with sidewalk chalk and bubbles. Bubbles and dogs are a fun combination.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
There's fun, inexpensive things for all ages that you can just experiment with. This is kind of trial and error. And you can also experiment with the length of time you engage in these activities.
Right.
And you know, if one child loses interest and wants to retreat, that's okay. As long as you've got one or more kids that are staying engaged and the stress level is low, you can play as long as they're able to hang in there with it, right?
Right.
Be flexible and fluid and have fun yourself.
That's right. And, you know, while we're on the subject of activities to do at home, let's talk a little bit about some level 1 indoor activities that our families enjoyed over the years, too. You know, things like playing video games together, the We Fit or, you know, Just Dance and those kinds of games.
Interactive ones.
They're interactive and they kind of keep everybody moving. And, you know, I remember times where Annika, all of us would be home. We would be playing music just back in the day when we had CDs instead of MP3. You know, everything was streaming. And I would play the DJ and change all the CDs out, and we would just hang out. And music can put people in good moods, and you can take turns selecting your favorite songs. There's all kinds of things you can do that keep you focused on those external things, but the intensity level is really low.
Yeah.
We made things like fun foods and treats, built blanket forts. We did puzzles, arts, and crafts, had tea parties. We loved to play board games and card games as a family. And those are just some great opportunities. Now, some of those might not be appropriate for the whole family to engage in, depending on the ages and the developmental stages. And again, you know, wherever you are on this relational climate, even level 1 activities sometimes can be a little too tense sometimes. But don't forget that these can be really good ideas to use in your one-on-one time as well in bio and step relationships. You know, so get creative with different things. You know, when Annika was younger, I got these little opportunities to work on technology and play games with her as a step parent. Part of that was because you didn't like technology and those kind of games. I
wasn't interested.
I got to fill that role, and it really created some unique opportunities for Annika and I to connect. But you know what? When it comes to card games, our mutual child, Phoebe, man, her and I go to coffee and play cards, and it's a great opportunity to build one-on-one time along the way.
So keep that in mind as we're talking about all these activities.
Yeah.
If they don't work out as family time, pivot and use them as one-on-one time.
Yeah. And these are all things that can be cut short if tensions rise.
Right.
They're low temperature, low pressure activities, and some can be spread out into small increments over time. Like an example, when we do a puzzle as a family, it sometimes takes us weeks to finish it because we work on it in small spurts. And sometimes all of us are together. Sometimes just a couple of us feel like focusing on the puzzle. But we've had quite a few quality bonding moments just sitting at the table doing puzzles.
We have.
Yeah.
So remember the criteria for level 1 activities. They're short and simple. Don't get complicated here. There's an external component to help hold everyone's attention and reduce the pressure to have to interact.
Yep.
And there's a quick escape route if things get tense.
Yeah.
So you want to stay close to home.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, so on to some practical ideas for level 2 activities.
Yeah. You know, level 2 activities, there's not a fine line. They can be kind of blend a little bit. But one of our favorites is just movie night at home. Right. So it's got this external component, but we're also maybe snuggling on the couch. We're a little bit closer in proximity than we are to each other. We're sharing popcorn out of the same bowl sometimes. And it can be really great because everyone gets to focus on that movie, but maybe we'll end up engaging in a conversation about the movie.
Right.
Maybe we'll make fun of it, have a few laughs together when it's all over.
Right.
So that can just be, kind of almost halfway between a level 1 and a level 2.
Yeah.
But some other ideas could be to go to a local playground or have a picnic at a nearby park. Now we're out in an environment, but we're actually increasing our level of interaction with each other, right? There's not as much to really focus on if we're just hanging out at a picnic.
Right.
Our family loves to go and explore nature together. If you're able to do that, stay relatively close to home, but go for it, right?
Yeah.
Being out in nature can be adventurous, especially if you encountered maybe unexpected weather. We've been caught in a few hailstorms that were pretty funny. Maybe accidentally get lost for a bit. We've done that at one of our parks as well. Maybe you'll catch a glimpse of a wild animal. I mean, good grief. I mean, even like a fuzzy caterpillar has been a major
entertained
focus
our
for
children. Yes.
Absolutely, right? Nature can be a calming force where people tend to be able to breathe deep and just relax. And it can be very therapeutic and calming. Kids can move and release their energy. Adults can stop and smell the roses, so to speak. Everyone gets a nice dose of vitamin D if it's sunny.
Right.
And hopefully a breath of fresh air, right? Nature tends to be a catalyst to peace and tranquility, which is always helpful for blended families.
Yeah, and like we said before, we live in the Pacific Northwest, and there's mountains and beaches and waterways all around. And so we've been able to make some awesome memories as a family doing things like kayaking and swimming and hiking and just going to the beach and collecting shells and building sand castles and skipping rocks into water.
Yeah.
We've also gone on bike rides and walks together. I mean, there are just so many fun, inexpensive activities you can do while you're exploring nature and staying relatively close to home.
Yep.
Now, with these level 2 activities, there are still some external things to focus on, but they aren't the primary thing. So a hike, a leisurely picnic, or beach combing often invites a bit of more relational interaction than just watching a movie or playing a game or doing a puzzle, right?
Yep.
And of course, time outside is always better with tasty food and fun treats.
Better with tasty food and fun treats.
We love to stop by the store on our way out and let the kids pick up what they'd like to eat on our adventure.
Within reason.
Right. And this always adds excitement to the outing for them, right? If they get to choose a little treat.
That's right.
Now, the reason why we say to choose something that's relatively close to home is because with a level 2 activity, you'll need to expect that your family could hit a bump, right? At some point, the tension level might increase. And if that happens, you'll want to transition towards a graceful ending to the outing and head back home.
That's right. That's right. And, when you're in the early stages of blending, you're going to need to keep your expectations realistic.
Yeah.
If your fun outing suddenly gets sidetracked by family tension, that's okay. You need to anticipate that possibility and be prepared to be flexible.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let your own disappointment add to the stress, and don't jump into fix-it mode. Can you believe that I said that, honey? Don't jump into fix-it mode.
I can't believe you just said that.
Attempting to force things to happen or extending an activity for a long period of time isn't usually helpful, and it can leave everyone, including you, really tentative about trying family time again in the future. Instead, choose to be thankful for the time that you did get, celebrate any small wins that you might have experienced, and be willing to pivot in the moment. You might need to. The main point is that you don't want to be miles and miles from home when things get bumpy and now everyone's stuck in a car for hours with rising tension and stress that you could kind of cut through with a butter knife, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And remember that short and sweet is better than nothing.
That's right.
So be patient. It's a low and slow approach.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's best if you can refrain from pushing your own bonding agenda, right? We all want what we want.
Yep.
No matter how great you might think your plan is with this family activity, be willing to release your own desires and allow everyone in the family to move at their own individual pace.
Yeah.
I know that's hard to do. But when tensions arise, it's most likely because someone isn't quite ready for forced family time, right?
Yep.
It might feel like your kids are giving you a hard time when they complain, push back, or act out, but they're probably having a hard time.
Yeah.
So give empathy and grace when tensions arise rather than reacting in a negative, punitive way. Instead, move towards a graceful retreat from the activity and do some emotion coaching with your child that's struggling. And if you want to learn more about emotion coaching a child that's having a difficult time, really around anything in life, we'll put a link to episode 71 in the show notes called How to Help Your Kids Cope with Painful Disappointment. And it's focused on the holiday season, but the strategy applies to any emotional upset that a child's struggling with. Go back and listen to that if you'd like some really helpful tips.
For sure. And just a quick tip for step parents. If one of your stepkids starts acting out during family time, please be very careful not to jump to judgment of the behavior or criticize how your partner responds to the child, especially in the moment. Instead, try to have a curious mindset. Why might this child be having a hard time? Do your best not to take it personal or overreact, because blended dynamics can be hard for everyone. So put on your patience and your empathy hat and allow your partner to emotionally support their child in the moment, even if you think the child's being manipulative or dramatic. And they might be in the moment because they're struggling and they simply don't know how to handle that pain. It's okay. But in that moment, you're going to want to avoid adding tension by quickly jumping in to label, correct, or give unsolicited parenting advice to your spouse.
Right.
And I can tell you I've learned this one the hard way.
Yes.
The best possible response would be to support your spouse with positive affirmation, regardless of if you agree how they're handling things right then. And even step up to emotionally coach the child as well by just affirming them and acknowledging their unique perspective. Hey, thanks for sharing that with me. I'm really sorry this is so hard for you. If you have an opportunity to do that, and if it's appropriate, you can try to engage in that way. And then later, you and your spouse can debrief the situation and work on what you'll each do differently next time. We coach couples through that kind of discussion all the time, and we'd be happy to help you if you need it. So you can click the link in the show notes to schedule a free coaching call with us, and we'd be happy to help you with those kind of discussions.
Right. Yeah. So how and when should you back out of a level 2 family time?
Good question, yeah.
And when do you need to pivot if you're noticing that things just aren't going well?
Right.
We need to talk about this. First, don't give up too early.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right.
So not the first time you hear a complaint or there's a little bit of minor stress.
Right.
And remember, there's a difference between a complaint and a criticism. Just because a child is complaining about something doesn't necessarily mean they're criticizing you.
Yeah, that's right.
And if there is a complaint, try to work through it with the child and invite them to re-engage in the activity. Again, use your emotion coaching skills. And sometimes you might be surprised at how a child can pull out of that negative attitude once they feel heard and understood.
Right.
It's amazing.
Right.
And then have a plan with your spouse. If there's one or two kids who seem to be struggling, agree ahead of time how many times that child's bio parent is going to try and emotion coach them through their pain before you're just going to make the call and head home, right? So if you both know what to expect going in, you'll likely avoid tension or conflict between the two of you when one wants to pack it up and the other one wants to stick it out, right? That's a hard place to be.
For sure. I'm really glad you mentioned that because we certainly don't want anybody to think, oh, as soon as there's a little tension, we just throw in the towel.
Right.
That's not it at all. We need to be really intentional about how we walk through that, though. And we don't want to get to the point where we're over-forcing this.
Yeah. Every child is unique, and you know your kids.
Yeah. And, you might also strategize how you can divide and conquer when that difficult moment hits.
Yeah.
If there's several family members who are having fun and only one is having a hard time, you might give everyone the option, right? That child's bio parent might say something like, hey, everyone, I'm going to take Johnny home to rest up a bit. You're all welcome to stay and keep having a great time. And anyone who wants to head back with me can come right along, right? Give them a choice. Now, if we think that all the way through, you may need to plan ahead of time and drive separately so that you've got some options like that. You can take two different cars and that'll help you. And if you hit that point where you both just realize, you know what, it's just time to pack it up, make sure to make some sort of announcement with a smile, a little pep in your step, something like, hey guys, thanks for coming out to have a fun time today. It's really nice for us to spend a little time together, but it seems like this might be a good time to pack it up and head back home. So let's head out.
Yeah.
Right? We don't want to be like, you guys are having such a terrible time now. We're packing it up and it's all over.
Yeah, we don't want to be punitive.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
So remember, level 2 activities, they take more time than a level 1 activity.
Yep.
They focus more on interaction with family members. And they're still close to home.
Yes.
But they might be a little farther than a level 1 activity.
Absolutely.
Right. We're taking some more risks here.
That's right. All right. Let's jump over and share some level 3 activities now. Now, our family has really enjoyed camping over the years. It's probably where we've had some of our most memorable times together as a family. But camping can be a bit risky because things can go really wrong just in general. And we know this from experience because we've had a few disastrous camping trips, not because of family tension, but things like getting rained out. Or one time there was a burn ban in effect that kept us from enjoying the best part of camping, the campfire, right? We had to deal with some extremely loud noise from a nearby rifle range at 4 a.m. where I thought there was like a shooter or something in the campground. It was crazy. We've even experienced fighter plane training at 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. from a nearby Air Force base that totally drowned out our campfire conversation. We couldn't even hear what each other was saying.
That was horrible. Once
we unknowingly camped next to a railroad track and we were up all night because of the howling trains. And then we packed up for a hasty, unplanned leave the next morning. For us, this was all a hassle and we were all exhausted and irritated. But the funny thing is, as we were in these later stages in kind of our more pleasant season of our relational climates, those trips that turned out to be disastrous actually are some of the biggest adventures that we've recounted and laughed about, and we still laugh about them all the time.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's funny now.
Yeah. It was like PTSD at the moment. Though.
And part of the reason we share all that is because unexpected hassles are definitely something that could lead to family tension and problems. So you might want to hold off on camping or any activity like that until you feel ready. If you're planning a camping trip because you think it will bring a disconnected blended family together, you probably need to back up and focus more on level 1 or 2 activities until everyone builds up a little family time stamina.
That's right. Yep.
But if you've noticed that the relational climate in your family has been pleasant for quite a while, then you might be ready. And something like a camping trip can be awesome for building teamwork. when everyone's able to work together to set up camp and fix meals and explore nature, play games, tell ghost stories around the campfire and all of that, right? But just think it through before you start planning a big camping trip.
Right.
And maybe you start with a short camp out, right? Somewhat close, just in case you need to make an early retreat. Or you could even try a camp out in your backyard first and just see how that goes.
Yeah. Now, of course, any kind of family trip can be a great bonding opportunity. But trips are definitely level 3 high-intensity activities where you're going to be together for a long period of time, maybe sharing a hotel room or traveling for hours in a small vehicle. So they come with a bit of risk. But be mindful about the length of time that you plan to be away and how far from home that you're ready to venture. And don't get us wrong here. We're not saying that family trips are off limits in any way. They can actually open up new opportunities for bonding because they have that element of adventure in them. And most people tend to be in good moods when they're able to get out of that normal routine and kind of enjoy a change of scenery, right? But what we really want to encourage you to do is to go in with your eyes open and be strategic about your planning.
Yeah, that reminds me of a couple we coached, and this couple were early in their blending journey, and things were pretty tentative and pretty tense between the stepmom and her stepdaughters.
Yeah.
These girls were very resistant to their dad's remarriage, and they had this idea, this perception that dad was starting over with a new family and kind of ditching out on them.
Yeah.
So there was all kinds of confusion and misunderstandings and hurt feelings. However, the dad, the husband, he really wanted everyone to engage in a family tradition, which was a trip that he'd been doing with his kids for years and his extended family members as well.
Yep.
But, of course, his new wife was not excited about this idea.
Yeah.
She was really concerned, and she wanted to kind of even protect her own kids and herself from being overlooked or excluded from all these normal activities that her husband usually did with his kids at this particular vacation spot.
Sure, that feels like rejection.
Yeah.
She didn't want that.
Yeah, if he's going to go off with his kids. And they were all concerned about how his girls would react and the potential for stress, anxiety, and more hurt feelings.
Yep.
So they wanted to do this well if they were going to do it at all.
Right, yeah. So we got to help them to work together to strategize around each day of the trip. The scheduling of activities, how time would be divided between the family, what one-on-one experiences were going to look like. And before they left on their adventure, the husband set some clear expectations with his kids around the schedule and assured them of what those traditional activities that would stay the same, the things that they were used to doing on this annual trip, and those things that he was going to do exclusively with them, right? That kind of one-on-one or bio-unit time. And what would be different this trip as they introduced some low-intensity activities that he'd be doing with his wife and her kids. And he really invited the girls to come and engage in those as well.
Right.
He was very careful not to force his kids, but he made sure that they knew that they were welcome to join in.
Right.
Yeah.
And this dad did a great job sending those important messages that we talk about back in episode 92 to his kids, that they belong. He valued his relationship with them and that he was there for them emotionally if they wanted to talk about their feelings or their concerns.
That's right.
And the couple also decided it was best for his kids to stay in a room with their grandparents, who are also part of this family tradition.
Yeah, it was a big trip.
And then he'd stay with his wife and her kids. And he did a great job setting this expectation with his kids before they left on the trip, so there wouldn't be any surprises, disappointments, or hurt feelings,
I
right?
think they kind of wanted to stay with Grandma and Grandpa anyway.
Yeah, it actually worked out well.
Now, we also got to coach with the wife around how she might respond in those moments when she felt like an outsider or felt rejected by his kids, because chances are that was going to happen. And we explored ways to talk with her kids about the dynamics if things got really stressful.
Right.
So this couple approached this trip with their eyes open to all the relational dynamics and the struggles, and they were very intentional. They didn't try to just wing it and hope for the best. They had challenging conversations as a couple. They had some awkward conversations with their kids, but they carefully planned the schedule and they were able to successfully honor his family tradition and at the same time begin to slowly integrate their blended family.
Yeah, and this wasn't easy, and there were still some tense moments on the trip. But in the end, his girls engaged with the short, sweet family activities, and they were open to bonding with their stepmom and her kids in new ways.
Yeah.
And this experience kind of became a fresh start for their blended family journey.
Yeah, it was like a turning point.
Yeah. They laughed, they experienced some adventure, and it meant a lot to his girls that their family tradition continued.
Right.
That decision helped to undo their misguided belief that dad was going off to start a new family and they were left behind.
Yeah, for sure.
These girls were able to see that he was still there, wanting to invest in one-on-one time with them, and that they were still important.
That's right. So again, we aren't suggesting that a hardline rule exists, that trips are just out in the early stages of blending. We're not saying that at all. What we are saying is to be really smart about them. Get your own expectations in line first, and then be intentional to strategize around if and when you might take a family trip. We've heard many stories of disastrous family trips that actually caused some damage to the bonding process because the couple just jumped in and decided everyone needed to spend extended time together. And that can feel like common sense sometimes.
Right.
Like, okay, let's just get everybody in a room until we muscle this out, right?
No.
But often it ends up adding unnecessary pressure to everyone, and ultimately it backfires. So be mindful as you move toward high-intensity activities such as camping or trips that are far from home.
Yeah. Now, a good way to move towards level 3 activities is to start small and work your way up. So think about things like day trips or longer local activities.
Yeah.
You might consider these kinds of things kind of at a level intensity of 2.5, right? In between 2 and 3.
Now you're introducing a new intensity.
Yeah. They're lower risk than a big trip away, and they can help you to gauge if your family is ready for more extended time together.
Right.
So maybe you'll consider a 2.5 intensity trip for just a weekend and go somewhere that's close to home just in case things get tense and you need to cut it short.
Yeah.
That might be a good way, though, to get a feel for how a higher intensity trip might work out in your family's future.
Sure.
Some other ideas could be going to a water park or water slides, museums, a zoo, an aquarium, or a wildlife refuge.
Yep.
You could consider signing up for a class as a family and learn something new together, maybe with a focus on cooking, art, music, or a dance class. You could even do an online class, right? Or take up a new sport or a hobby or build something together like a tree house as a family.
Big project, Yeah, you can get creative. And if something that you try ends up flopping, don't get discouraged. It's okay. You're going to do some things and they're going to flop. Not everything's going to work. This is a learning process. There's going to be bumps in the road as you do some trial and error around what works and what doesn't. But choose to stay the course and keep trying as your family gradually finds its new identity. And remember to move at a pace that's low and slow.
Low and slow.
That's right.
So we shared a lot of practical ways to experiment with family time and encourage bonding. Now, last summer in episode 94, which was called 70 Summer Activities to Create Family Time and Encourage Bonding, with that episode, we offered a free downloadable cheat sheet with lots and lots of practical ideas, 70 ideas, in fact.
I was going to say, it's 70 actually.
And they were for all 3 of these intensity levels.
That's right, yeah. And the cheat sheet is mostly focused on summer activities with good weather and sunshine. But just think of everything that you could try in the winter around snow or hot cocoa or winter sports, whatever the season. We want to encourage you to spend some time as a couple strategizing around how you can be intentional about creating positive family time.
Yes. And part of this process is having ongoing dialogue. So the free cheat sheet from episode 94 also includes a debrief worksheet to help you talk as a couple and evaluate how each activity went and assess the outcome of your family time with some next steps on how to move forward based on those results and those conversations so that you don't stay stuck. You want to keep moving forward.
For sure. We'll link to that episode in the show notes, and you can get over there and go ahead and download that free cheat sheet because that could be really helpful in this conversation.
We encourage you to do that.
Yeah, and it takes what we're talking about today at even another level.
Yeah, and there's 70 ideas.
For sure. Yeah, a lot more than what we talked about today.
Yeah.
Now, as we wrap our time up today, I just want to give a shout out and a thanks to Ron Deal and Gary Chapman, who wrote the book Building Love Together in Blended Families, based on Gary's 5 love languages and Ron's knowledge of blended family life.
It's a great book.
That whole intensity thing, we actually got it from that book. And man, they talk about so many different ways to build bonds and build connection in blended families in that book. So we just want to thank Ron and Gary for that. And as we close our time, I want you to remember something. Don't confuse slow progress with no progress. If you're a perfectionist like me, slow progress might really trip you up. It feels uncomfortable. But let me tell you what, you can choose to leave your perfectionistic ideals behind and instead make imperfect progress your goal. If I can make that mindset shift, I promise you can make that mindset shift. Yeah.
That's right. Do your best to relax and enjoy small moments of connection.
Yeah.
And don't allow discouragement to set in when things don't match up with your expectations.
Yep.
Stay the course and persevere with patience, understanding, and grace. You can do this.
For sure. You know what? Speaking of patience, understanding, and grace, we recently met an ingenious mom of 4 named Jennifer Zambil, and she's all about helping families connect. She's created some really amazing resources, including a fun, practical dinner time game that we think is really valuable.
Yeah, it could really help with that awkward silence and acting out at the dinner table.
Right,
And we were so impressed with Jennifer and her work and her approach to parenting that we invited her to be on the show to share how you can create conversation that will help your family laugh, go deeper, feel closer, and learn new things about one another.
For sure, yeah.
So if that all sounds good to you, don't miss our interview with Jennifer in 2 weeks. It's going to be awesome.
Absolutely. Can't wait for that. And make sure you join us next week for a simple step. But for now, that's going to make this episode a wrap.
Until next time.